I'm very excited to be joined by the Oscar-nominated directors of the incredible documentary film Cutting Through Rocks, Iranian filmmakers Sara, Khaki, and Mohammadreza, Eyni are a married directing team, and they've been winning multiple awards with this beautiful film, which I truly loved and found so moving and inspiring. And so did my husband, Ted. This film follows the first woman elected to a rural village council in northwestern Iran. And Sara Khaki is a director, producer, and editor trained in social documentary at SVA. And she previously co-directed the Emmy-nominated Netflix film Convergence, Courage in a Crisis, and the IDA-nominated short Our Iranian Lockdown. While Eyni is a director, producer, and cinematographer from the Azeri Turkish-speaking community where this film is set. And you bring in particular the kind of intimate, long-term verite approach that defines your company together and your commitment to politically charged stories from underrepresented Iranian communities. It's such a pleasure to have you here, and thank you.
Thank you so much for having us, Vanessa. We also love storytelling in general, regardless of where they take place, because we tell stories of humanity and we are all closer to one another than we can imagine. So we are very, very excited for the possibility of just storytelling anywhere.
Yes. And your company together, is it Gandam Films?
Yes.
Excellent. So you have this incredible woman at the center of your film, Cutting Through Rocks. And I'm curious how you first met Sara Shaverdi and at what point you understood the story wasn't just about this very special woman who becomes a councilwoman, the first in an Iranian village, but about really how this whole village is negotiating with all the changes that come with her in this position. It's such an incredible lens, and she's such an incredible person.
Yes. I always talk about how I was born and raised in Iran and I left Iran at a young age. I came to the United States. And I came across Sara Shaverdi's, but I'm going to quickly get to the point where we actually, after several months of speaking to her over phone, and of course, I spoke to Mohammadreza for several times to kind of plan this shoot. We walked into this village together. Mohammadreza being from the region where the spoken language of this film is Azeri Turkish. It's in the northwest of Iran, and Mohammadreza is a native speaker and also a wonderful cinematographer. So I thought it makes perfect sense that we both walk into this village together and we both explore the story together. And in the beginning, we just went in it with the open heart, not really planning anything particularly, but knew that there's this really interesting character. Let's observe her and let's see where she will take us. And we knew that she was going to do this run of a campaign. And that's really how everything started. But then very quickly, we realized that this is not really the whole story here. There are so many layers and so many nuances, and we are here for a long journey.
Yeah. And also for me, it was a great opportunity to work on a story that coming from my community. I've witnessed so many similar stories of teenage girls or women facing with a lot of obstacles. But for me, as a male director, going and make an intimate film there about women was not possible. Yeah, it's flying.
Yeah. So I'll just explain that my mother's African gray parrot is behind me, and I'm staying on mute, but he has been chiming in while you've been speaking. He's been saying, want some more a lot. So I'm just going to keep myself on mute. But yes, please go on.
Yeah, and so many girls wanted to be like the parrot here, being able to fly to different places that they want, but they were in the cage. And Sara Shaverdi, our main character, is trying to bring them to the public space. Actually, talking about cage, we have one scene, Sara celebrating in the yard, and men are dancing, and women are inside behind the window, and they are taking photos of Sara, and they're just observing and watching, but they're not in the yard. And Sara in the film trying to bring them out of their houses, because Sara is going to give them voice. Sara is trying to create space for them and fighting for their freedom, and also asking them to fight for dignity, for their space, and demanding for more rights.
And, sometimes we wondered if we knew from earlier on that we didn't want to make an election story. That was just going to be one layer of this complex story. But, sometimes we talked about the idea of even if Sara already didn't win a council seat, would we continue filming her? And we would have continued filming her, but now that she won, the reason why we wanted to follow her was to really study the power, I think.
Yeah, seeing how she is offering the change to the village and how people in the village reacting to those changes. And our film is about that. It's about one brave individual who thinks that something is wrong there. She's going to fight to fix it. And she got some support from young generation and also a lot of setbacks coming from older generation and some men. And this is about fight for equality.
It really is. And again, I found it so moving, so inspiring, and so important, actually. And I really am so thrilled that your film is receiving such a positive reception and traveling and reaching audiences everywhere, because I kind of feel that the greater equality for women and more women in politics who are progressive and care in the way that Sara does about inclusivity and rights will make the world a better place. I very much believe in that. And I love the film and how intimate it is with Sara and her story. I mean, you were reminding me, I was thinking, how is it that she could be so progressive in her thinking? And it feels a little as if you're showing that her relationship with her father was hugely impactful, that he took her on his motorcycle and he kind of let her be who she wanted to be. That helped give her the confidence to make the kind of decisions she does in her life and supporting her community. But it is about so much more, as you've said, Sara. It's about local politics in Iran and religion and all these gender norms. So I wonder, as directors, how you found that balance between the very personal, intimate story of Sara, who we love getting to know and spending time with, and you share her story in such a beautiful way, and all of these many layers that echo through the film, that come through the work she's doing.
So I would say there are different layers to our process too, because we walked in there starting the whole journey with an observational lens and just really following Sara as she was going from one place to another. Of course, this happened after we spent long enough time in the village with Sara's family, with the villagers. So we spent long enough time so that they didn't really feel the presence of the camera. And they would always ask us, they would always refer to us as a couple with a camera. And if we didn't have our camera, they would wonder if something's going on, or what went wrong, or what happened to your camera. Which was yeah.
On that point, was it additionally helpful to be a couple? I mean, Mohammadreza just said I think it was helpful to have you to gain access to women. Was it helpful to present yourselves as a married couple?
Well, we weren't. Yes, the short answer is yes, but the long answer is that we weren't. I mean, we got married as we were making this film, as we got to know each other.
Now I remember that I read that, actually. I read that came from making this film together. That's congratulations. That is actually so beautiful. Very, very beautiful. Congratulations.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much. It was two stories happening at the same time. One, the
I
soul
love it.
cutting to rocks, and love story. And I can say we needed each other, because imagine facing so many stories, some tragic stories also. And we needed each other to becoming each other's therapists in the village. We were there staying for a long time and getting support from each other and trusting each other and having a lot of conversations about the film itself.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it was a good collaboration. What do you think?
I think it wasn't bad.
Definitely an excellent collaboration, a very good choice to stay together. And I'm so sorry I interrupted you to ask that question because you were in the middle, Sara, of answering about how you sort of managed to layer all of this deeper context around the personal story of
Yeah.
Sara.
Yeah, thank you, Vanessa. So essentially we started our journey with this observational lens, and so this is really a verite storytelling, and we were always inspired by the masters of cinema that we always talk about. I personally was inspired by the Maisels brothers, and we recently lost Frederick Wiseman, a wonderful influence of documentary filmmaking. So we walked into this place. Of course, Mohammadreza, you have a lot of filmmakers that you have in mind, fiction and nonfiction, that really influenced you. So we had a lot of conversations around cinema in general and how we want to visually tell the story. Let's imagine there are themes that are coming through the production, as we are witnessing and filming in verite moments, we realize that there are layers to the story that we need to consider bringing up as a theme, as a theme that it keeps on coming up. So one of the themes, for example, was in contrast with the visibility of Sara, which she demands it, which is really, really great, is the invisibility of the women. We would walk into the village and see, s- here in the fall, actually, there are a lot of weddings happening in this region because the farming is just finished. And as they are finishing up this process, that's really usually when the weddings start to happen. And we would just walk into the village and hear so many different wedding songs from distance, from different houses, and then come to realize that, oh, so and so's daughter is getting married tonight, and so and so's daughter is getting married tonight. And so it just became this repeated idea of, oh, this child bride marriage is a thing here. This is important into the story because now that Sara Shalvridi is an elected council member, she's going to do something about it. And how do we tell that story? And that is, that idea of invisibility of the women. What does that mean visually? How do we tell that story? And then also with Sara and her connection to her father, how she learned motorcycle from her, and so many other things from her father, and also her frequent visits to the two trees that her father planted, and so many other things that started to emerge. It wasn't clear right at the first or second production trip that this is really how the plan is going to be. I think it took us a while to figure out the story.
And also, this is the beauty of observational filmmaking, to witness the change and also experience the life of people and what is happening there. And also being open to new layers, being open to what is happening, because it's not like a fiction having a script and going there and cover. We always were alert for the stories that were happening and our sub characters, and we wanted to being there to experience that with our camera. And I always mention for other in the panels that we have or master classes to very younger filmmakers that if you want to make a observational verite filmmaking, do something that you really believe, because otherwise it's not possible, because you don't know how long you're going to spend on making the film, 2 years or 8 years or 10 years or 12 years. So you need to really believe to your story, because maybe you are going to sacrifice many things to just tell that story. So we did it together, and we were so patient with our story. And also thanks to Sara Shahverdi, the main character, who was open for covering her story, and also people of the village that accepted us. And despite so many setbacks that we had, which was made it many times for us thinking that it's impossible to finish the film, but we had support from our main character and especially young generation. And also we had each other to remind each other that why we are making this film.
That's so beautiful. I don't actually know how long you spent filming, But I do know, as you've just described, Mohammadreza, your cinematography is exceptional, and you have a closeness with Sara Shaverdi, your main character, and really everyone in the village, as you've just described, loves both of you, gives both of you access. Clearly, there was a very positive relationship established, but did you observe an evolution? Was there a hesitation at first to give you that level of intimacy on camera, and then it grew over time? And did it take longer than you expected? And how long were you both out there in the field filming? And the tree, by the way, is so beautiful. We have to just pause on the I mean, it's beautiful that the trees were planted, and it's beautiful the way you return again, and that Sara returns
Mhm.
again and again, and you film that in different seasons and different moods, and it's beautiful.
Thank you. I can say it's natural to build the trust and intimacy during time, especially for documentary veritas style films. So I can say in the beginning, the first days, it was not like this. Was not even with our main character, we needed time to spend together. It's like a relationship. We need time, spend, talk, to be on the same page, to find similarities, and also for both of us to know all of the villagers, to know their perspectives.
Mhm.
And also Sarah's opponents, they were open to talk about their perspectives without any hesitation. They were so open to talk about how Sara Shaverdi is not capable of being a leader in a community, or saying that she doesn't have any experience. So that way, I can say we had access to so many levels, so many different perspectives. And what did you expect that it's going to?
So we spent 7 years in production, and out of this 7 years, we had 8 sessions of filming. And every time we would go back, we would realize that in order to really have a productive production trip, we really have to spend a lot of time. So we would spend a stretch of time, sometimes a full month, sometimes 2 months. The longest we spent was 90 days because we wanted to be on the ground and really follow the evolution of the characters and just the events that are unfolding. Sometimes Sarah would, as a council member, would do some constructions, and then we would leave, and then she would, on the phone, she would be like, "Oh, that project is completely finished. Now I'm on this other thing." And we would feel like, we really want to be able to see the difference between, when she's the process. I'm sure all documentary filmmakers love the process and see how things are shifting. So that required a lot of patience, and also, as I mentioned, the themes started to appear because in the beginning we were just following Sara Shaverdi. And then when we realized that there's this story about child marriage and about education that we want to integrate into the story, that's when we started to follow these younger girls. And there were so many of them, there were so many incidences where these young girls would come, some of them would come and spend time with Sarah and then be in transition between their divorce or just going back to school again and then starting again. So as we were filming, one of these girls happened to be this younger Ferishte who was on the verge of divorce, and it so happened that her parents agreed that she would spend some time with Sarah, which was really great because she got a lot of inspiration, especially when they had a moment to go motorcycle riding. And that was really interesting. Sometimes we would plan things if we could, but a lot of times things would just happen and we would just try to adapt. For example, they had a conversation and they decided to go for this motorcycle ride. And then we came to talk, at the end, and in the evening, we talked about how we want to plan this shoot if it actually happens. And so we would go on this it was like an entire evening where Sarah and Ferishte went for a motorcycle ride, and we went there with them. And I always constantly was doing sound. We were like a very small crew. I was doing sound, Mohammadreza was doing camera, and sometimes in other occasions, like the bigger events like the election or the motorcycle gathering, we would hire other crew members, but when we were together, sometimes we would talk about how we anticipate certain moments, but most of it, because it's a verite moment, it happens on the spot. And sometimes, as someone, as an editor too, I really admired some of the decisions that Mohammadreza made on the spot as a cinematographer and director, because there were moments where there's no moment to even talk between the two of us. It was him that would move the camera a certain way, and then in the editing room I would really admire that. Or there were other moments where we needed to talk, like the visit to the two trees, for example, that became a motif in the film, or the gate to Sarah's house. It started to become a motif in the film, but as we were shooting at different moments, we weren't really thinking about that to say, now this is going to be a important motif in the film. It kind of became an important motif as we were editing the film.
And it's so clear, and you've spoken so well about that process with verite filmmaking and documentary, where you don't know what's going to happen and you hope you're there for these key moments, and often you're called in, but then also the key moment can happen very quickly. And thankfully you were there on the ground capturing so much. You could have just watched Sara with nothing happening. As you said, I could have watched if she didn't get elected. I could have, it's so engaging, and it's so beautiful actually how you do bring in the girls and more characters with depth. But I wonder, because you do have a very dramatic kind of turn of events in the film, and these accusations arise against Sara, and she's questioned, and it was surprising actually. I didn't expect it. I didn't see that coming, and I wonder how you felt. You couldn't have known that events would go this way and how Sara would respond. You really have a very dramatic story in the end that says even more than you could have maybe anticipated going in. And I wonder how you managed that. You were saying, Mohammadreza, that the townspeople were very comfortable speaking up and giving their opinions if they didn't agree with her, but it becomes very dramatic.
We always mention that we've got a lesson from uh, Abbas Kiarostami, an Iranian director that we admire. He says that for making films, you don't need to invent something. You just need to be good observants. For making dramatic films, you don't need to create something surreal. Many times, life is full of those dramas. And imagine, Vanessa, if someone wants to make a film about you in last 8 years, I'm sure your life is full of dramas, of course, with details, with small challenges every day you've had. So filmmaker is there to explore those moments. And we wanted to spend a lot of time and being patient there to be good observants and to explore, to not losing something that we think is important happening there and including in our film. And we wanted to observe Sara and her community and including all those perspectives. And this was a very complex story with a lot of layers. And we both decided to use and include those layers by making a cohesive films. But at the same time, we knew that this is a global story and to making it understandable for all of us. And now we are here in New York, and our colleagues and friends say that this is, guys, Cutting Through Rocks is our story too here in the US. So this is because of how the challenges that we have are similar. The story coming from northwest of Iran, and you can find those challenges here in the US, here in New York also. So we both wanted to stay sharp while making this film and just being good observants. And then dramas were there waiting for us to explore. But one of those layers is Sara's gender crisis. It was shocking. It was surprising. We didn't expect that. But the theme, the idea behind that was familiar for us because it was about power, the authority saying that we have the control over you. If you want to be strong, it's better to be a man. But being a strong woman don't come together.
And the body policing.
Yeah.
And the body policing that happens everywhere, and that as women we've become aware of that, regardless of where we come from or where we live. It becomes part of our collective conscious in a way. And to see that that's happening in a very dramatic way to her was really, really shocking. And she was equally surprised as well. And you know, their aim, as you mentioned, was really just manipulation of power and holding on to the fact that she, you know, they didn't want her to continue her activities, and they stopped her from doing that for well over a year as this case was ongoing, and she had to go through the series of tests and so on. And then as you know, as rapidly as this case was open, they closed it without any explanation. And basically the result of it was that, you know, she explains too in the film there that, okay, well, they closed the case, but who's going to be responsible for, who's going to heal my pain now, you know? And that's, we see a lot of that happening in this type of societies. You know, we also, as independent filmmakers, we were stopped and questioned and banned from leaving Iran for 1 full year. And as that was happening, we were in the middle of production, and we were trying to figure out, with the footage that we captured, we were trying to study the footage and try to see if we only have one more possibility of one more shooting trip, are we going to be able to finish the film, and what would that look like? And because it's a verite film, that, you know, we were left with a lot of uncertainties and questions, but we basically had to just keep going with a lot of belief and faith that somehow magically they're going to close this case and we are going to go back to continue shooting. And it happened. They closed the case. We went back to filming. And because of the event that happened to Sara Shahverdi, and because of what happened to us, in a way, we always talk about how Cutting Through Rocks mirrored both production and the person that we were following. So it was a mirror journey in a way, and we felt even more determined to want to tell the story.
And you actually did something, I think, that's really, really important in your choice of continuing and your choice of where to end the film, because again, that was completely open and in your hands. And it's so moving how inspiring Sara Sharvati becomes to the girls in the film, and for the crisis that comes to her to kind of diminish not only her opportunity and progress in the council, but to put fear into the other girls and women about gender power. You're not meant to be in these positions. This isn't for you. To feel and see her resilience in moving beyond that so that she remains an inspiration and force is, I thought, a brilliant choice. So important that you did keep going. How did you find that ending?
So ending was there, and actually we decided to trust our intuition while working on this film. And as we mentioned, it was 8 sessions of filming, and each time was very long days staying there. And each time we're like, this is the last phase of production. But then after facing with those new layers and stories, we're like, we need to spend more time, more round, more production, one more time being in the field. So we wanted to, first of all, see the changes that Sara is offering to the community, the evolution. We wanted to see that. We wanted to see that how complex this story is and how Sara is fighting in so many different layers for just one reason, bringing equality to the village. And when we experienced the last shot of the film, we're like, in the beginning of the film, Sara was one and only motorcycle rider in the village. And then we see the fruitation, other girls joining her, and also their parents who were in the beginning of the film against all of these ideas. Now, some of them being there to support their girls, and also other people in the village are watching them for sure. And some of them now entered to the university, and the first female high school is building in the village. It's not only about this village, because also from other villages, they are watching them and they are thinking about other ways of living and also supporting their girls. This, when we both witnessed that change, we're like, yeah, but this is not something happening in one time. This is not like changing all of the villagers in just one moment, seeing one scene. It's about the future and the possibility of having better future. So this was the most important thing. And today someone asked, what was the most important thing that Sara did in the village? It was construction or education or motorcycle riding or as a first woman taking a council seat. And our answer was no, changing the perception of people in the village. And she did it. Now you can find more teenage girls daring for asking for their own rights.
It's epic, really. It's epic, the film. I mean, it's intimate, but it really, I'm so excited that you've made it and it's out there and it really can have this ongoing effect. I wonder if you're experiencing on the Oscar campaign trail or festival campaign trail the audience reactions in this particular moment in time. As you've said, your story does connect to women everywhere. Women in the US right now are experiencing backlash. And I wonder how you see it. Iran is having a moment right now, how this is connecting for you, because I feel your film is probably resonating for audiences everywhere and has implications on a bigger scale.
Yes. So after the film was after the premiered, had its world premiere at Sundance, it was really wonderful that the film traveled to now over 100 film festivals worldwide, and we receive a lot of really beautiful messages from the audience. This is such a wonderful experience for any filmmakers to be able to connect to the audience. And I think we don't have a US distribution, but in some ways not having the US distribution is kind of in a way connecting us in a deeper level to the audience, where we get to have their reactions, we get to meet them in theaters, in cinemas, and we get to see them,
Learning from
and
them
learn from them.
because they
Yeah.
start to share their own stories and experiences. So
Yeah.
for us as filmmakers, this is really important and meaningful.
Yeah, and some of them come to tell us this is also our story. Sarah's now our new role model. I have some updates to share with you about Sara back home, because in some ways we are really, really deeply sad that we are not able to celebrate with Sara Shahverdi. We're not able to have her on the ground for the Oscars because of the travel ban, and there are a lot of limitations around what is happening back home and what is happening here in the US. But in some ways, we were still working so hard on many paperworks to be able to have her in Europe and at least enjoy festival experiences. And one of the festivals she was able to join us was South Korea. I mean, the only place she was able to join us so far. And so she experienced the film with young teenage South Koreans, and after the film they came up to her, they asked for her signature, and they were sharing with her that there are a lot of not in the same level. They can have educational rights obviously and marry the person they choose, but there are a lot of injustices that happens also in South Korea that we were not aware of, and that seemed really interesting. And they were talking about how we all need someone like Sara Shahverdi in our community to help us move forward. And
Sarah's answer was, you are all Sara Shahverdis for your communities. And this is true, because if we can give them more space, they can really shine. And I'm coming from the community of cutting through rocks happening. So I'm sure if we give them more space for teenage girls, they can do so many things. We can have so many other Sara Shahverdis because her dad gave her that space, and now she is someone who is trying to empower others. So regarding what is happening in Iran and very tragic things, it's unbelievable. It's we need many weeks to just digest that. Just digest the news. And this is the feelings of all Iranians now inside and outside the country, because it was shocking. It was surprising that what happened. So the only thing that give us hope for the future of our country is our people. It's people like Sara. We have so many amazing men and women living in Iran now. This is one of those stories coming from northwest of Iran, but also other parts of Iran, and amazing people that we have. They deserve to have a better future, I think.
And I think in the end, I would say that this is also a story of perseverance and of hope and tenacity. And we hope that the audience would walk away feeling all those feelings, for their lives and their communities. And we certainly hope all those amazing qualities that Sara has for others inside Iran as well.
I love that. Yeah, it is. It's such a beautiful story of Sarah and the community. You're really so aware of everyone around her, and she wants to take care of everyone around her and help the community. It's beautiful. I'm so sorry our US cinema ecosystem is where it is, that distribution should be there. You should be offered wonderful deals, and it should be obvious to guarantee that this film is in theaters for long periods of time and available on streaming. And this is something Ted, my husband, who I'm doing these with, is working on every day, trying to build the community in film, trying to push for films like yours to be seen and filmmakers like you to be heard. And so I don't know if in your journey you have come up with any thoughts on what we can do better or how to improve the cinema ecosystem.
We are here just because of support coming from colleagues like you, because we didn't have any distributor, and it was amazing. It was exactly like Sara Shahverdi's grassroots campaign
Like
in the
cutting
film.
through rocks.
Like, and for us also, it was cutting through rocks. We wanted to do it because we believe that this is a story that needs to be connected to audience in different places. And now we are here because people believed in the story, and also colleagues that generously supported us and the film by spreading the word and by talking with others to consider watching the film. These were really amazing support that we got, and we never take it for granted.
And I also wanted to add that in terms of what I wish for the industry is a little bit of inclusivity and at the same time sustainability, because we spent about 8 years of our lives telling this story that we are working so hard to find a home for, where it shouldn't be that way. In some ways, yes, through the support from colleagues, we've been able to bring attention to the film, which is great. But we are also releasing the film theatrically, independently, within a team that we were working with, which has been great. But we wish there was another platform where we could have both theatrical release and also have the opportunity to connect to the audience. We love the independency of the film that we made, the way we made it. And I feel like now there are these specific streamers and platforms that dictate a certain way of storytelling. And I think in that sense, we are being excluded in those categories. But in other ways, it is also inspiring maybe for next generation of filmmakers to see Cutting Through Rocks as its own model, that independently made and independently released and now independently nominated. It's really wonderful model in a way, but it's not sustainable. So we really need to find a way to bridge this gap of finding a platform.
Well said. I completely agree. I share your experiences. I spent 8 years making a documentary too, so I very much understand the multiple
Okay.
trips and the commitment and the cutting through rocks. And actually, in today's world where we really, really need movies like yours, we really, really need them. It's just so beautiful. I'm so thankful you've made this film. I'm so grateful for your time today.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it was really amazing talking to you.